It's looking like challenging and difficult times ahead, and maybe some financial certainty and hardship for many customers and businesses.
Now you're seeing a lot more customers having to utilize credit to be able to pay for simple things such as paying for their groceries or buying the school uniforms, which creates a lot of new challenges.
Mounting pressures, inflation, wage growth, compliance demands. There's a lot of rumblings in the FCA and Ofgem world at the minute, which I think is potentially going to steer some consolidation conversations.
There are unscrupulous advisors online telling consumers to submit a DSAR, raise a claim to claim that they've failed to respond to the DSAR, and allegedly they will win somehow. And they don't. They face costs. So there's real consumer harm, but it's also a massive burden on firms too.
Common sense regulation, I think, is always, I think those of us in the sector with mature businesses would always welcome good, common sense, well thought through, fair and balanced regulation. So I think some of the moves that are going on with potentially repealing certain parts of the Consumer Credit Act, which are outdated, could be a positive, and it's a chance to really shape things for the consumer's benefit.
So what I'm hearing from the FCA with my positive hat on is probably them saying, use innovation to really push the boundaries of customer centricity, do it in a responsible way, and we're not going to get in the way of what you're doing. We use it for bad, and we will.
So I think the devil's in the detail, and we just need to make sure we get it right as we think those changes through.
The longer we take to help someone and to engage with someone, the less likely they are to engage.
It's important for us to give the customer the most frictionless way possible of being able to undertake that annual review, but also sell the benefits of doing so to them.
It's really important to drill down into age demographics, originating lenders. Was that done digitally? Was that done in person? And then trying to streamline that into how that person would probably prefer that we make contact with them.
I think there's definitely a cohort of consumers who prefer the perceived anonymity of the digital interaction. There's a second cohort who are perfectly happy to communicate on WhatsApp and have a conversation with someone digitally rather than try to get some time to spend on the phone. It's just a more convenient way of having a conversation, particularly if you're at work or you've got a busy life.
Nothing that an agent can do on the phone with us that they can't do on the customer portal without having to talk to us. On a month-by-month basis, probably about between 40 and 60% of our engagement is online as opposed to through any other mechanism.
It's a good example of whereby you look at implementing a technology, but you always have to put the customer lens on top of it to make sure that the customer is kind of at the forefront of what that technology is doing for us. So we need to kind of always just think about what's right for the customer, and then you know that you're in line with what the FCA expects.
There are customers that just don't want to talk to us. And when you think about banks shutting branches and certain customer groups saying, this is having a massive impact on my life, they like going to the branch, that's how they want to do their transactions. Some customers require a service, and it might be for something really simple, like I just want my balance, but they want to be able to make a phone call. So it's being able to get that balance.
Let's make sure that we're doing things right. Are we bringing in the right people with the right motivation in speaking to our customers? Is the culture of our firm built around delivering good customer outcomes? Are we training people in the right way? Are we rewarding in the right way? Are we giving them the right tools in order that they can deliver a really good customer experience?
It's really important that as a sector, education is better, so customers are informed of what to do when they fall into debt and how that we're able to support them as an industry, because that fear prevents them engaging.
So that to me is one of our biggest issues still, that we've got to challenge that stigma and make sure that people engage rather than running away or seeking bad advice.
I think the stigma around collection, debt collection, or consumer collection, or however you want to phrase it, is a very difficult one to win hearts and minds.
The services we provide are extremely helpful, and we have a duty and a responsibility to provide a variety of solutions designed to help people.
It's still about making sure that the right message got in there. And I think there's a lot of work going on. Well, I know there's a lot of work going on with government to try and align their processes to bring them in. Because sometimes the earliest collections experience somebody might get could be from council tax or government debts, which are collected very differently to financial services and FCA regulated products.
Are rating our interaction as helpful or very helpful? That's a great story and one that we want to continue to shout about. But similarly, we need to focus on the 3% to find out we could improve there as well. So I think it's more of those types of things. And how do we get traction on those types of data pieces and stories?
That's the best way, I think, to undercut fear. If you can get trusted sources telling consumers that if they speak to their creditors, they'll be treated fairly, or speak to legitimate, authorized advice organizations, but just engage with your debt. Don't leave it alone.
We are able to reduce the amount of calls that we're taking in our call centers. We're able to redeploy that time and effort to ensure that we're spending it with those customers that truly need our help. So we're able to handle more vulnerable customers, that we're able to deal with those more intricate matters that you really need a human for.
As you bring efficiency in with technology, you can bring effectiveness in through your colleagues, and that requires training, development, and ultimately, higher pay for those colleagues that continue to support the business.
I think the bit that's most exciting is using the interaction data in a more meaningful way so that you really understand the interactions with the customers and how we can do things better.
I think if there are AI solutions that can help them not just navigate their financial circumstances, but start maximizing their own income whilst cutting the burden for the advice sector, which we know can be quite challenging, I think that's a really positive use of the technology.
I think it's about being thoughtful about what matters up front. I know it's become a bit of a cliche, but there's a risk of trying to drink from the fire hydrant with all of that data that's being generated. So I think upfront discerning what is going to make a difference to the customer journey and then to the customer outcomes is quite important.
If your foundation is fundamentally not working and needs improvement, if you put something like a really smart agent AI model on top of it, it's not going to fix anything. If anything, you're risking making things worse.
The sensible and controlled implementation of AI across different parts of our business will be where the next 6 to 12 months go.
So over the last 3-4 years, even sooner, 5, 6, 7 years, it were all about implementing like digital contact channels, SMS, email, move away from just outbound dialing, mix it up a little bit. Then it was self-serve portals. And what you saw was people kind of just picking up and plugging in solutions with no real thought around how it fits into their ecosystem in general.
Open banking's here to stay. But what we've not done successfully is we've not really connected it to the collections and recovery side, because if we could, it would remove the burden on customers in financial difficulties to provide income and expenditures under the standard financial statement.
One of the things that I think we'll end up with is that, when you phone a contact centre, you won't speak to a human in 5 years' time. You'll probably speak to some sort of AI.
Example I always give to people when they, including my 70-year-old mother, when I don't use AI, I said, yes, you do. What do you mean? I said, every time you go onto Netflix and it recommends a television program to you, that's AI.
I think it's a really exciting time because what will happen is, yes, there's always a need for a call and interaction, but what will happen is a perception of the industry and consumers will change to, I can get a much faster and possibly better outcome if I take the AI or technology route.
Continuous improvement through the data that we gain from the interactions with customers. And I think that's still what it's all about for us. It's kind of getting better at interacting with customers and helping them in a difficult situation.
As long as we can have a high probability of getting the right answer to that customer, then it will always be answered by AI.
There's a lot of people who are quite terrified of the term AI and what that might be bringing. But actually, the reality is we've decided to adopt a human-centric, with the assistance of AI approach.
Look, I think you've got to have the core right. And this may be quite an old-fashioned perspective. I want to make sure that our core processes are right, our training is right, that we've got the right people sitting on the end of the telephone. From quite a simple standpoint, AI and call transcription, which I think will raise the game later on, but I think there's so much can be done before you get to that stage.
Giving the customer what they want, and self-serve that, and we get less breakage, which is obviously a cost in the collections business. So, by listening to customers, driven by consumer duty, listening to customers in the right way and the constructive input they've got, we've been able to add a lot of functionality to how we go about our processes.
When does, say, ChatGPT supplant Google as where somebody goes to search? And then how do we think about SEO and pay-per-click when actually the first place somebody is going to say, okay, how do I get myself out of debt, might be
I'm now
ChatGPT.
using ChatGPT pretty much every day. So the AI side of things, I think, is going to be probably the biggest change in our industry.
Is in the next 5 to 10 years, if you don't know how to use an AI tool to your advantage, you're at a severe disadvantage.